Will, W-I-L-L, a word often used but rarely defined. Will or willpower is the focus of a unity's biological energies upon a objective. Ergo, the underlying function of will is to focus an organism's need upon what it is lacking. Therefore, the term free will, which is another term that is often used without being defined, is a contradiction in terms. Freedom, to be free, is to be independent. To will is to will something you are lacking. You do not will what you are not lacking. Therefore, you will what you need, and need is a dependence. The will cannot be free, since it's the manifestation of a lack. Because the will is the focus by the mind of the organisms or the unity's aggregate energies upon an objective, how much of these energies are controlled and how well they can be focused is determined by the strength of the will. This leads to a situation such as an organism possessing less aggregate energies being able to overpower one that has more aggregate energies, simply by being able to focus these energies much more precisely. It would be like a beam of light being focused so much that it turns into a laser beam that can cut through even metal, whereas a light that's not as focused becomes diffused and loses its power. So you can have a individual who's, let's say, 160 pounds, and because he could focus with his will the sum total of his energies so precisely, he can overpower some other man who is 200 pounds. Now the larger man has more potential for power, to focus more power, but if he lacks the discipline or the will focus, the focus of the will, then he will be unable to do so. Here we see another fact. Just as appearance is not superficial, and it does mean something, in this case, size, mass, is also not superficial, since it designates a potential. Now, how much of this potential is realized is another matter. The fact is that a mass, the size of an organism, is the sum total of its potential. Now, because man has a much more powerful mind in comparison to another beast, let's say, that might be larger than him, his willpower can focus much more of the inferior sum total of energies he possesses, and so he can overpower a beast that is much more powerful than him. Now, this focusing can take on the form of physical focus, such as is practiced in the martial arts, or it could be a purely mental focus, that is, an intellectual focus upon a objective to such a degree that the mind perceives much more of that object than any other creature or any other individual can. The will can be trained and increased in force and power with exercise, both mental and physical. In Greek, exercise, the word for exercise, askesis, applies to both the body, as in athletics, and the mind, as in ascetics. In both cases, the stress, whether the mind indulges in the artificial form of it or finds itself in a position where it's forced to be stressed, sharpens its willpower, or it perishes by being unable to sharpen its willpower, and in so doing becomes more powerful, stronger. Now in the physical context, this sharpening of the body's aggregate energies manifests as muscle. Muscle is the end result of the body exercising, that is, stressing itself to the point where the aggregate energies at its possession become more useful to the organism, become more focused. In the mind, in the context of the mind, it is more difficult to perceive the end result of this exercise, this focusing of one's will, because of course the mind is invisible to perception, but one can perceive the end result of this focus in the individual's discipline, in his demeanor, in his attitude, in his focus. Therefore, in the Hellenic way, ascetics is a form of athletics for the mind, and both are a sharpening of the will, a reinforcement of the will, where the will becomes more and more able to harness the organism's aggregate energies. In the Eastern tradition, of course, it can take on the form of total denial of self, as it is done also in Christianity. In a way, this form of self-stressing is a way of burning away excess baggage. Whether this excess baggage comes in the form of fat, that is, nutrition that cannot be adequately processed, so it is stored in the body and then becomes a weight detrimental to the organism, a burden. Or if it takes the form in the mind of excess baggage, as in insecurities, experiences that inhibit the mind's well-being. The only way to expunge the organism, both mind and body, of such excess baggage is again this stress, this exercising, this asketiki, where through this experience with stress, the will becomes sharper and sharper and gains more and more control over the sum total of the organism's energies. I think of this stress as a grindstone upon which a lens, the will, is sharpened. Now, there's a danger to this, of course, because if you sharpen too much, then you might shatter the lens, because the consistency of the lens, its strength, is also a product of its past. In other words, genetics. And not all lenses can be sharpened to the same degree of fineness without breaking them. So the more the will is polished, focused, made sensitive to light, the more it can focus this light. And this focus is the focus of the will.